to 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to another 2A media workshop. So this is an effort, thanks in large part to our Patreons who give me the time to do it, an effort to have a Tuesday and a Saturday session open for 2A content creators, people that are participating in the creation of something, video, photography, blogs, maybe audio recording, doing interviews, in other words, and doing some kind of an audio blog or a podcast or something, doing some kind of a live show like these are, or anything else that we're not thinking of, publishing or who knows what. So if you're doing something that's 2A oriented, oftentimes we're kind of left out. When you go to do a tutorial or something, they're never going to use firearm stuff as an example, and often, well, not often, but occasionally you'll ask for help or something as a gun person, and they'll tell you to go pound sand for whatever reason because they don't like their political stance or something. So anyway, just to give a place that's 2A friendly, where we can talk nuts and bolts, we can talk about how to create content using tech or the platforms that we have out there, the places, the ways that we have to use this internet, to give people just an introduction at times, the real nuts and bolts, others, and then I don't know, some direction and some motivation. Sometimes throughout the year, people have times when they're wondering if it's worth it, if they're going in the right direction, if everything they're doing is adding up to something else or whatever. Dealing with audience, we dealt with that the other day, kind of before Matt's show. Some guys were dealing with one of the growing pains of creating content is the audience will change over time as it grows. Your relationship with an audience will change and develop. And anyway, so there's things like that are sometimes tough to know going in. You start doing something as for fun or for some reason or for some event or some area of interest, and you're just contributing to a conversation, but for whatever reason it develops and goes on, and you're next thing you know, you're involved in the industry to some extent. You're involved in the community for sure, and involved in the conversation, online or whatever you're doing. And when you put something out there for other people to experience, they have something. They have investment in that. They've spent their time ingesting it, looking at it, understanding it, participating in it, whatever it happens to be. And they own some of that. They got to realize that they have ownership in that, and they're going to expect and demand and experience things differently than you might have intended or even were aware of when you started the whole thing. And that's the kind of stuff that's not necessarily addressed because it's boring and it's not trendy and it's not always applicable. And people don't have, some people I guess can go through their entire career doing stuff without having those issues, but a lot of us do. And that's the kind of stuff we talk about here. We like to network, so we've been having pretty good success, each of us reaching out to other people that are efforting for 2A media to bring people together so that we can experience and collaborate on different types of media, different types of message, different types of audience, different types of everything. And I think that we all get better with that. We all learn from each other. We all motivate each other, and we all facilitate each other. And I'm hoping that these workshops grow. And again, thanks to the people that support us on Patreon, which is an awesome platform. We might talk about that a little bit today. And for making the time possible for us to keep doing this. It's not something that's needed. It's not something, well, it might be needed, but it's not something that's demanded by the market. And it's not something that I don't think anybody's really doing it. So it's not something that can be said, oh, this is a success or a failure. It's just something that we're doing to see and to hopefully help. So with all that, just throwing the preface out there for somebody who might be seeing this for the first time, I've been inviting 42 plus at this point. I'd have to count at this point how many people I invite to this show each Tuesday and each Saturday. And I'll keep doing it until they really threaten me. And then I'm pretty stubborn, so they'll threaten me pretty hard to get me to stop inviting them. but people that I think are valid. If you're getting an invite from me, it's because I know you, or I know enough people who know you and have talked about you to think you're valid and worth getting an invite. You'll see there's people that'll never get an invite to this, and it's not because I'm trying to divide the community, but I know there's people it's not worth wasting our time talking to. They're only in it for other reasons, but when there are people out there that are in it for the 2A, best thing we can do is help each other, right? And we'll each grow, and that'll grow an audience, it'll grow our reach, but not just for the sake of growing reach. It'll grow an audience that's like-minded, and a bunch of audience that sits down in a theater and everybody applauds for getting kicked in the nuts is a different experience than if you go into a theater and everybody applauds for, respect for the flag, or for the acknowledgement of the Second Amendment, or realization that true heroes don't wear capes, that kind of stuff. That's a different experience, and we as media can either continue to do what our predecessors did, which oftentimes, was influenced by all kinds of things, or we can change that dynamic and getting together like this and talking about some of the boring 2A stuff, or, in my opinion, some of the most exciting stuff in 2A is stuff that we, as people right now with power, right? We have time, we have influence, we have money, we have outreach. We know people, we have networks. Each and every single one of us do, and we can either use that to, entertain ourselves, or we can use that to affect change. And I think we're living in a pretty exciting time. So this might seem pretty boring to people who are used to just sitting there and watching explosions and intrigue and petty this and that, or I don't know, whatever they're used to seeing. But we're trying to change that up and offer some alternative to that, and an alternative that's got some substance in the effect of developing audiences that, like I say, might be interested in seeing a 2A rally and what develops from that, instead of a little spat about who's selling t-shirts or who's doesn't like this enough or likes 9mm too much. We don't need to get into all that stuff. So I don't know, did I even introduce you, Ghost? Did I give you a chance to say hello? Ghost is jumping in from Arkansas, and I think I was trying to go on a little beginning there, so I don't know, give people time to join in and introduce the show again to people.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's I love what you're trying to do with this, and I wish more people would get involved.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll accumulate, and there'll be workshops, and some of them will be good, and some of them will be bad. But we've had pretty good success. Tuesday's a weird day. I wanted to pick a weekday, and when you look at the things online, if you go tell the internet or ask the internet, when's the best time to do something live? It'll tell you. And tell me if I'm wrong. If somebody else has seen something else out there that conflicts with this, I'd like to know. But it'll tell you basically do it between Tuesday and Thursday, and do it whatever we used to, television prime time used to be, like, let's say 5 to 10 p.m., depending on which time zone you're in. So sweet spot would be a little bit later than this, any Tuesday through Thursday. Thursday being heavier than Tuesday, and Wednesday being the lightest of the three. That's the summary of everything I've ever seen as far as like when to do things live. I guess that's just, the way people's 9-to-5 jobs and their dinner patterns and the other type of entertainment that's out there and options and people's schedules for the week, just all that hits the sweet spot. And then I think, okay, gun owners are different than all that, so probably not dead center and all that necessarily. I don't know, maybe we are. But anyway, so I just picked Tuesday. I guess it's in that window, but a little bit low and to the right. I pulled a little bit hard on the trigger maybe, but I didn't want to go dead center for middle of Wednesday. That would have nailed Clover's show. So I went a little bit early on Tuesday, and then I went in the afternoon on Saturdays. Again, so a weekend day is not a weekday, so we're trying to just cover as much room as we can, and to continue to do them as long as possible. So I don't need to bore anybody. I'm not here to give you a speech. I did that opening thing there to describe the show, but really I'm here just to provide a place for people to have a conversation. Ghost is doing his other 9-to-5 right now, so he's not necessarily here to entertain anybody either. We have an audience out there. There's 13 people watching at the moment, which I appreciate. There's again, this is a weird time, middle of the day, to be doing these. Honestly, I have a lot of tasks I need to do, or I like to do, scheduling and doing stuff. So I can go right to doing that and just run a podcast. So let us know out there if you've got something to say or to question or to suggest. and we can keep the live conversation going. That might attract some of the people I sent emails to. Or I've got, I like the James Kalita podcast to listen to that one. I'm missing a few of those already. I like to listen to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. It's a pretty decent podcast. His are longer, but I definitely have a lot of those to listen to still. And then I think I've missed 2 episodes of Gun Freedom Radio. And for a while there, they were doing like best ofs. Since I've listened to most of them, the best ofs were repeats for me. So I think they're back in regular shows, though. And that's a 2-hour show each week. So when I first started this concept of doing the workshop, I just figured I'd do some of my work and run a podcast. And then people started to join in, and I said, okay, well, I'll start sending out more links. And, we've had the holidays, so I'm not pointing fingers or bugging anybody about it, but we'll continue to do them. And we'll see if people start showing up or not. We got SHOT Show coming up next week, so this would technically be the last one before next week. So I did it a little bit different today. I sent out every single person an individual email. I started that at noon, thinking, I'm going to do this 2 hours early, right? So at noon my time, I start sending out individual emails to everybody, the 42 people, or it's probably like 48 people now. And some of them are like giant channels that and I know personally, like I've met these people. So I'm sending it to them like, hey, what the hell, join in. Like, we know each other, join in, you talking the talk or what? And then other ones are people I've met, like Cheryl, the Gun Freedom Radio, and I have no idea if she's available on a Tuesday, but others who have jumped in, right? Tony and Logan, people that we haven't really talked to before jumped in, and so I know the emails get out there, but I suspect the emails, when I was sending them with a blind copy, that they were only getting thrown into, spam folders. So today I figured, well, I'm going to send everybody a specific email. So I started 2 hours early sending out specific emails to people. And then I look up and it's like 10 minutes before the show starts. And my emails, I'm going to send you a link 20 minutes prior to the show and stuff. And I'm sending these emails out like 10 minutes before the show. So then I'm like, dope, I don't have even time like to send a specific email with the link. So what I did is I sent the links, that's, the actual links to this room out, like just quickly before the show here, like maybe 6 at a time, like 6 blind copies at a time, so that it went, with fewer emails. But I don't know. Hopefully people will see the single email and go, oh shit, because in there I told them like, look, I've been inviting you every week, so if you're missing this, maybe that'll give them like the, oh snap, let me unblock this, or let me make sure to go into my junk mail, highlight the email and say this is not intended for junk, or whatever your email client is going to say. And then that way, be sure the email client would be sure to throw my emails on top. So we'll see. Again, it's Tuesday, and nobody has any obligation, and who knows how dedicated people really are and how familiar or comfortable people are with going live. So they might not be interested in embarrassing themselves, or what they perceive as embarrassing themselves in front of the 16 people that are watching this live. Imagine. And then however many dozens of people might watch this afterwards. These don't get a heck of a lot of views. These aren't really for audience. I mean, the audience is welcome to be involved. That's what everything we do is all about on the internet. Is the internet's more powerful when the audience participates. The internet is more useful that way. But at the same time, we're not here to do a little song and dance. This ain't a puppet show. Night Strike and Ghost are real human beings. I've met both of them. We're just here to collaborate and enhance our efforts. Ghost's got, not really that many projects. You got a couple of projects you're working on. Night Strike's got a pretty massive project, and then his other 2A projects. So we're here to talk nuts and bolts and make sure that people are doing better. So now, asking you guys, I know I'm asking an easy audience an easy question, and I got to go get my cigarettes out of my van. So I'm gonna let you guys chat for a bit. But have these efforts been useful? Do you really learn stuff from these things, or just a bunch of patting each other on the back and blowing each other up kind of thing?
You mean the Minuteman University stuff, right?
Yeah, I suppose this specifically. Otherwise, we get into too many things.
Right. Yeah, obviously. No. This has helped me. You've shown me some things that I can do with WordPress that I haven't done before because I'm used to the classic editor. You showed me how to use the new editor. That helped. And granted, we did that for building a website and whatnot, but it's still applicable because I had never used the new editor, and now I'm using the new editor. So that did help. Of course, it's not hard for me to set up a website and whatnot, but making the tools easier is very helpful. Well, what do you think, Ghost?
I think that shows like this are great. I mean, not only just the tech side of things, but there are people out there that might be thinking about getting involved with 2A media, and if it's something that we can discuss that makes it seem easier and more open to them to do, then I think that's our jobs. But from a personal standpoint, I've met some people like Tony and Logan and all that have been are now friends of mine, and I would have probably not have met them for a long time had it not been for this show. So for the networking side, I think it's nice that G tries to get people from different print media, from historical side, from podcasters to YouTubers to
Which
bloggers.
Tony are we talking?
Tony Simon. He
Tony
runs
Simon.
the 2A for Everyone podcast up in New Jersey. I talk to Tony all the time now, and so it's one of those things where I think the networking side for creators is wonderful to get people from different demographics and different platforms that they're using, because we're all doing 2A media stuff. It's not just YouTube. There's print media, there's radio, there's podcasts, and there's all sorts of different 2A media that are out there that someone might not want to turn a camera on, but they might be willing to talk into a microphone and do a podcast, or they might be able to write a blog, or they might be able to do a website, they might be able to do whatever. It's all 2A media. Yeah,
and it's just that I was talking to G-Webs a little earlier, and I think that I think we did a really good job with how to build a website, but that's just like one area. I mean, building the website is one thing, but again, you got to get a domain. You've got to figure out how to set that up. You got to figure out how to add that to web hosting service that you have to go and get. And I think some of these topics are topics that we really need to know if we want to get our message out there. Like if you want a website, you want everyone to know that you're pro 2A and you have a website and you've got your own space on the internet where no one can censor you, then you got to have those skills.
Yeah, and I think that let's just talk shop. I mean, SHOT for a second. For those people that have said, "Hey, I'd like to go to SHOT sometimes," it's going to be, well, one of the criteria, whether you like it or not, is that you have to have your own website. You're not even going to get considered as being a legitimate media source for the 2A if you don't have a website. So, yeah, sure. I mean, a website is ground zero if that's what you want to do. So yeah, it's all very important. It's all very relevant.
Yeah, and while I know a lot of the technical stuff, and I get a little too far down the rabbit hole with it sometimes, I apologize for that. It's just it's stuff I really know and stuff I'd like to share with others. And this whole Minuteman University thing is an outlet for me to share some of my knowledge with everyone else.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, for the people, and we all know who they are. We all know that there are people in our 2A media circle. It's a big circle, but there's a circle that not necessarily we always hang with, but still involved in the circle, that don't necessarily like sharing knowledge because they're afraid that someone might use that knowledge and come catch them and be more relevant and important than they are. And I think that that's a shame because it doesn't matter. I mean, I hope that someone out there watch right now who has not even started YouTube, I hope 6 months from now they blow up way past me because it means they're doing something right and they're getting the voice out. So I think that sharing information and sharing knowledge with everyone is key, because if we're worried about our own, then we're not doing it for the right reasons.
Well, remember, knowledge is a tool. And just like any tool, it can be used as a weapon, or it could be used to empower or better oneself. Same thing with firearms. It's a tool. So, it's just it depends on how you choose to use that tool, whether good or evil. Knowledge can be used the same.
That's right. That's right. And I want to do, speaking of which, Michael's out there saying that he's just started his own live stream on Tuesdays at 1 Central. Just got done not too long ago. So if you haven't gone over to Michael's Michael's channel. G just put the link out in there, and go check Michael out. He's just starting a show, so let's go and support that. Watch it, share it. And I think that we had talked about this on one of my other shows before, but the power of a share is incredible. Yeah, the subscriber list is nice. The likes, the thumbs up are great. The comments are awesome. But if you really want to help someone that you watch and a creator that you like, an influencer, if you want to call it that you like, and you like the message, the best way to get that message spread is by sharing it on different media platforms. So if you like what someone's doing, please share.
We have now added another Michael to the Mike Militia.
That's right.
There we go.
That's right.
And I approve of the rockin' beard he's got too. So
he does have a cool beard, so go check that out. And thanks, Michael, for starting up a live stream. People don't realize the nervousness and the craziness that happens when you first start up your live show, because you're nervous and you've got so many things behind the scenes. So the fact that you're jumping in the deep end right now and just going for it, I love that. So go support him. I appreciate you, Michael.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie here. You know, even when I'm not saying you're not. Even when I do live streams, I'll be honest. I still am a little nervous because, you know, you're always going to have that little bit of nervousness, whether, you know, your show's going to go good or your show's going to go bad. And I'm trying spam calls. And I go ahead and do my show every Tuesday night, whether I have something to talk about or not. But again, you know, I don't let that nervousness stop me. I just, you know, power on through it. And, you know, remember, if you do a live stream, yeah, you're going to be nervous. You're always going to be nervous. But don't let that nervousness prevent you from doing what you enjoy.
Well, if you're not nervous, it means you don't care anymore. So, I mean, as long as you care about the quality of product and information you're putting out, you're going to be nervous. But, you know, as far as getting through it, you're going to get used to it. The more you do it, I mean, I was crappy for a long, I still am to a certain extent, but you're going to get better all the time. The more
you've gotten better than I have. So just, there you go.
Yeah, nervousness goes away like anything. I mean, you're nervous driving a car when you first get it. You're nervous CCW when you first get it. You know, you don't want to get into ignorance or bliss. You know, what is that word? Like, you know,
ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, you don't want to be like take anything for granted or be dumb about it. But no, it definitely you get over that. That's something that just seems like a thing until you do it a bunch of times. It's like driving a motorcycle. It might seem daunting, and you do it for a couple of years, and then it's not a thing.
Right.
So Michael's chat, Michael's channel, we were just looking through some of the videos over there. Pretty cool. So yeah, it doesn't have to be 2A to be on Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a community. So if you're looking for people, plenty of people are into prepping and outdoor skills and stuff like you got over there. You might be able to collaborate with people or just get, you know, people that are interested in grassroots type of content. A lot different having somebody just turn on a camera versus a production crew, you know, plan out what's, you know, going to pay bills for the next 12 months and then schedule stuff and bring out $1 billion worth of cameras. It's neat and everything, but a lot of people don't, you know, value that as much as individual effort. So Gun Channel is a pretty good community of people that are on both sides of the camera. So you're welcome to join over there. Anyhow, this isn't a plug for that, but that's just a resource for you. On the Gun Channel side, though, Wheelchair Warrior asked us to talk about editing videos. I asked him about a specific aspect or not. He hasn't replied yet, but as far as editing videos, how many years have you been editing videos, Ghost?
I've been editing videos since about 2007. I used to do a lot of sports videos for people. And then a previous endeavor that I had in my life, I was a sports scout. So I did a bunch of highlight films for athletes trying to get noticed by college coaches and stuff. So I've been editing videos for over 10 years now.
I've been wanting to be a professional choreographed swimmer. You've been able to videotape me in pool in Vegas?
I think that me seeing you swim in a pool would be gold. I really do.
All right, we'll work on that. Night Strike, how long have you been editing video?
Off and on amateurish, couple, you know, not 10 years, but probably between 5 and 7. But as far as just doing it for YouTube stuff, I don't edit my videos if I don't have to, just because of the factor of I like being able to give everyone the raw content, because I'm not editing. I'm not going to edit my content just to produce it and look like, you know, I'm somebody ready for TV, because that's not what my channel is about. My channel is all about the nitty gritty. So I do. I try not to edit when I can. So because I like giving everyone the raw, you know, the raw footage, because, you know, I feel that too many things are edited already, you know, online and even on TV. You know, we need to get more unedited content out there.
Okay, so Wheelchair is saying he's not seeing any chat for some reason, so let me screen capture and show you the deal. So Gun Channels is website, right? I didn't build this all from Notepad, so I didn't write all the code. This is a software package, and the chat portion of the software package is another company. So there's two companies that we're dealing with here. So I'm going to jump over to, where's the page that we're on? This is the Minuteman University page. So if you're watching this, Wheelchair, the chat here that's on the page, that's embedded, it's called on the page, works, but you have to refresh. So right now there's nothing on there. If I refresh the page, since I'm logged in, it'll now, you know, populate with all the stuff that's been said. However, if you use the chat down here in the bottom, then this one will populate. Yes, that one will populate whenever somebody types. So right now this is just a glitch. The company that we use for this software is trying to get away from chat rooms. I guess chat rooms aren't popular online anymore. They're going to more of an instant message type of thing, and because of that, the chat is old code that doesn't refresh. So just a technical thing, but since we're talking about workshop stuff here, I just figured I'd give everybody a heads up on that. And that's just something that, I don't know, I'm going to try to put some effort into it again in February, but I'm not making any promises at this point. You know, Gun Channels is a community. It's not a specific tool or an app or anything. I'm not going to, you know, it's not something that we can do logically keep up with tech to make it the fanciest tool out there on the internet. We're just not at that level as far as funding and everything. And I don't think it's necessary. Like Night Strike said, anybody can go pay a professional place to make their stuff polished and perfect and cutting edge. But I don't know if that's necessarily necessary for just getting the word out there. So part of this effort, the 2A Media workshops, is because I've been going to events and stuff for a while now. SHOT Show for 13 years and NRA Show for a while. Not as often because it travels and I can't always get to it. SHOT Show, I've had the advantage of it being in Vegas, just a few miles away for a while. So I've been able to attend that one financially, right? But whenever I'm able to attend the larger shows, and especially the Gun Rights Policy Conference, they've, I don't know, changed my perspective on stuff. So attending these shows, where was I going with this? The concept that an individual creating content might seem like a drop in the ocean or just another reiteration of the same topic. But there's a couple aspects that I've touched on in the past, and I'm going to cover those since we're still waiting for Wheelchair to tell us what specifically about video editing you'd like to know about. Again, with this concept of individuals creating content, after going to these shows for so long, I see that there are, let's call them major media platforms that concentrate on the second. Those started out being pictures in magazines, so professional photographers that would go around SHOT Show and have whatever relationships they had, and they would take pictures based on, you know, whatever financial situation allowed the magazine to continue. So, you know, those were prearranged for the most part, and you didn't just see rogue people walking around too much. As the internet developed and I started going to SHOT Show, there were a couple of people walking around taking pictures, just rogue for the internet. Like, you call them, what would you call that? Like Peter Parker, not, what do they call that?
Photographer.
No, but
freelance.
Freelance. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. So it's basically like a freelance thing. So anyhow, so then you get, you know, the cable TV used to throw at people at the show, and they'd have like a big semi truck with a big production thing, and they'd be editing video and going live and stuff. That started in 2009. And anyway, you see these production companies, and then you see the internet get large, and then you see YouTubers specifically get large. And that's where I think people say, oh, I can participate, but there's already people participating at such a level. Like, what does it matter? What do I care? So you start, as a person who's familiar with the environment we're talking about here, talking to whoever might be listening who's aware of what's going on out there. You've got the largest channels that are entertainment. They're just not interested in pushing a political agenda at all, anyone, even the ones that protect our Second Amendment protected rights, right? So they're just out of the game. So when you look at the playing field, you can start to take people out of the game who aren't in the game. So again, we're talking about your value as an individual content creator. Then you start talking about all the places that can afford to put the big stuff out there, the companies and the distributors and the I don't know, I guess mostly the companies and the distributors that pay for all the big ads and stuff and pay for content to be created. They very rarely care about the politics of it, again, because they figure there's some issue with that. I don't know why they would consider that, but it seems like that's the excuse they fall into whenever they're actually asked about why they don't do political stuff, which isn't very often. So, so you've got all that stuff that's paid for, and that's a good majority of the stuff that we experience. And again, that's not two-way effort. So then you get to the people like me probably and others who are kind of semi-pro. We're in the game and we're putting out effort out there, but we're not the largest audiences or whatever. Now, we might be rogue. Some of us are definitely 2A, some of us aren't. But, we're all kind of running around like a bunch of spazzes doing our thing. And then you've got all the individuals who are just with a camera and with a phone, or usually with a phone nowadays, and a social media account or two, doing some stuff, either as part of a bigger thing like a gun channels or a full 30 or some kind of a YouTube click, I guess is the word, a group, or maybe a Facebook group. I guess people hang out in those, so they're all creating content, but for the most part, it's either collaborating or contributing to some kind of effort. But how many of those are, focused on 2A? So over the years, going to these things and seeing how, the industry and the tech and the coverage has developed, and then seeing that it's got no direction, right? There's very little organized direction. There's NSSF, right? The National Shooting Sports Federation, the people that host SHOT Show since 1979. They give the industry a trade show. They give us a place to gather, but they don't offer direction or a focus. And then we've got the Second Amendment organizations. Obviously, we know the big one, and we know their attitude on focusing and collaborating with smaller organizations. So again, they're out of the, we can write them out of the game. We've got the national level ones that we all like: Gun Owners America, Second Amendment Foundation, JPFO, FPC, like go on and on. Again, those people are pro 2A as fuck, but they're not, they exist. I don't want to say anything bad about them. They're doing their thing. Their messages are on point. They're all pulling in the same direction for sure, but they're not necessarily all, they're not all, they're playing in their zones, right? Your aircraft carrier doesn't need to go in the same direction as your battleship. They're both winning the war for you, but they're doing their jobs. And that's what we've got, is a bunch of that. So they're not necessarily saying, they'd like everybody to follow them, but they're not saying this is the only direction to go, because they acknowledge that, you need lobbyists, you need people to fight on a state level, you need people to organize get-togethers, you need people to be boots on the ground. So I think all these organizations recognize that they can't do it all. So we, as the individuals creating content, we've got all the power. At least we've got all the potential. And I think there's a lot of power in that potential. And if you count, I don't know, is there a way to count how many channels are pro 2A out there? Either 100% or at least a percentage where they would, do something for the effort. Is there a way to count how many channels there are? Is there a way to count how many subscribers that might be? I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of overlap there, but there certainly isn't 100% overlap. If you took every individual content creator, and there might be 1 million people following Hitchcock, they don't all fit under Hitchcock. There's plenty of people like myself that have never really watched a Hitchcock video, that I watch all kinds of Night Strikes videos or something. Like there's people that will have watched your stuff for whatever reason and not watch other people's stuff. So imagine the reach that starts to envelop, or the amount of people that start to potentially be influenced by our reach as individuals. I think that's where these workshops are designed, to give us that concept, that awareness. And then once we have that awareness and understand that potential, I ask you to imagine what would happen if we all asked our audience something to do something at the same time. If we all asked everybody to clap at 3 p.m., would that sound like thunder?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So that's what these workshops are an effort towards. And well, I'll be at SHOT trying to get people to jump into these things and utilize the tools that we've made over the years. But with that, we'll see if wheelchair's saying just refreshed.
He's back over on the YouTube side, and he was saying that he was just curious about editing in general. He can do live, but he was thinking about doing a produced video, and he was talking about splicing in video from another source. So I don't know if that means like downloading a live video that you've done and splicing it into segments. I do that quite frequently, especially last week. I took the round table that we had, and I took that video and splice it into individual minute cuts to put on Instagram from everybody's, kind of statements and all that. So I personally use Power Director, and you can use, there's so many different, Sony Vegas, you've got Adobe. I mean, you've got all sorts of these different editing softwares. Just find one that you're comfortable with and that you can afford and all of that, but they all will be able to do the same thing. And there are a myriad of videos on YouTube that can explain on whatever software program you choose to use how to do all that. But the basic thing is you want to do is if you're just looking to splice a video, then the easiest part, and this is just for me, the easiest way to do it is to go by the audio track. Instead of trying to find exactly in the picture where it stops, you'll be able to see gaps here and there of, like, if I ask G a question, there'll be a natural 1 or 2 second gap in the audio before he starts answering. So you go find that spike of audio, and then you can start kind of cutting video due to the audio. I find it a lot easier to cut through audio noise than the video picture itself.
Right, and a couple of us also use Cyberlink Power Director, but I've used
that's what I just said.
I've used OpenShot, which is an open source, a free video editor, and I've had pretty good success with that. So you might want to look for that as well if you want to try something out first before diving head in and buying a copy of Power Director.
Yeah, and I think in most of these, and I can't say for all of them, but I would say that most of these software packages will at least give you like a 7-day free trial before you have to actually buy it. So take advantage of all the free trials, the different ones, and figure out and play around with them, because everyone's going to have a software that they seem to work easier with. G really likes Adobe. I really like Power Director, and Night Strike might use a separate one, but play around with 3 or 4 or 5 different ones, because they all will give you a free trial at least. And at that point, you can kind of figure out what works best for you, because just by going by me saying I'm Power Director or Night Striker, what G uses may not work for you as well. So definitely try the free trials, and there's all sorts of great programs out there.
Yeah. So, it's just try something out. I would recommend trying out the open source free stuff first. And if that doesn't have enough options that you need to use to edit your videos, then I would recommend trying out some of the other, some of the paid options. Again, like Power Director or even Adobe Video Editor, what G's using. Just try that out. You can probably get trials, and if the trial doesn't give you enough options, obviously you have to pay for the software. But again, it might, I went and got a copy of Power Director after I used OpenShot for a long while. So just, try something and, see what works out best for you.
All right. So I am going to agree with Night Strike on the open source, because you got to start somewhere. You might as well start something that's free. And most people don't need all the bells and whistles. I mean, none of us need all the bells and whistles. That's just like if you're making movies or you're doing something that gets pushed onto DVD. There's bells and whistles in there for stuff we're just not using. So basic software is all going to do the same thing, just like a internet browser is all going to do the same thing. There might be some cosmetic differences, or one might have a little bit more or less functionality than another, but most of that difference in functionality is in realms that we don't even care about, like stuff that none of us are normally going to use. So they're all going to work just fine. And As far as testing Adobe, unless you got some reason to really go nuts, it costs 50 something plus a month. So it's not worth it unless you're in it for, you're getting a return on it. Unless you just got 50 bucks a month to throw at it. And then it's just super powerful and it's huge on your computer. It takes a lot of space on your computer, but that's because it's so fast. Like it can just do, it's ready to do so much stuff. It can just do it. Where with my other cheaper softwares, they just weren't as capable for some things. And we're talking things that are kind of specific, like when I take 8 hours worth of my dash cam, high def 8 hours worth of videos, which will be, in 3-minute chunks, 8 hours, numerous videos that I stick together, and then take that hours. What is going on? Take that hours and then shrink it down to like a couple of minutes. And my other software could do that, but it would take a lot of process and this and that because the software was only so capable. In Adobe, I could do all that and it would have been done already. Like it takes me less time to explain it, less time to do it than it takes to explain the whole thing. So I'm looking at the software right now, but it really doesn't matter what software we're looking at. Almost all of it's going to have these similar components. Think of it like when you watch olden days somebody working on a film strip or like a movie in a movie theater. It's big ass reel to reel. So all video is just nothing but a whole bunch of pictures, right? Picture's a picture. You take 2 or 3 pictures and glue them together in a row, and now it turns into a film strip, right? So that's all a video is a whole bunch of individual pictures, and our software will lay the video file down the same way you lay down a film strip on an old editing system where you've got the film in front of you and you literally take a razor blade and you cut a piece and you maybe move a piece around and use real tape to tape it back together. I think that's how they used to do it back in the day. They'd edit their video all up, like literally slice the negative, the video, the reel-to-reel tape or whatever, and tape it back together right where they wanted it, frame for frame and everything. And then I think they just ran that through some kind of machine that would, make a copy as one piece without all the pieces of tape in it, right? And then they had their edited version, and they'd have to go through all that process. Software doesn't do anything different. It just takes our video, lays it down in a timeline or a time strip or whatever you want to think of that, like the film laying down, lets us cut it, lets us squish it around or fold it or do stuff with it, fiddle with it, like zoom in or zoom out. It'll let us crop a piece out. If you got somebody standing there you don't want in it, it lets you sometimes crop out and zoom kind of in on the stuff that you wanted to be in focus on. You can put special effects and explosions and clouds and all that kind of stuff, and then you can slice the video and put like a text in between or a transition effect where it's swipes across from one to the other. There's those kind of tools in there. So anyway, I figured I'd show you here just any software is going to have these basic components. So I'm going to take my software, and then I've got my window over here where I've got some videos just open in a folder on my computer. Now I'm going to take this video, drag it over here and drop it onto that film strip area or whatever you want to call the timeline. And as I move my little thingy back and forth here, you can see, is it showing up on the thing?
Yes. We see the dog and the bacon.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah, so you can see the video. So let's say that's one of the pieces of video. And then I've got this other piece of video. I just dragged it from this folder over here and dropped it, or I could have searched for it. It really doesn't, the specifics are up to the software, I guess. Now you've got, like Ghost was saying, you've got the audio and the video. I should say the audio and the video. The video is those bunches of pictures stuck together, and the audio is the audio track that goes with
jerky.
it. Yeah, it's duck jerky, actually. But anyway, like Ghost was saying, let's say you were to, I don't eat it, it's for the dog. Let's say someone were to clap. That would show up on the little audio thing here, and I can probably adjust this to make it look more obvious. This pause in conversation, like Ghost was saying, is visible in the audio track. Wherever I paused right there as I was doing something, I had smaller pauses over here. You can zoom in on your track. So if you needed to do a delicate slice, you just wanted to get rid of this little space, you want to make that space as big as possible. So that
pinpoint.
Yeah, you can do that kind of thing. You can go the other way and put massive files together, and I can move this file, let's say from which order they're going to be in. But your specific question was, how do I splice? So you're going to find that file. It's laid down here. So imagine somebody laid down that that movie strip, and then they laid down this shorter movie strip, and I'll make them look bigger on the screen here. And for whatever reason, at this pause somewhere, we want to insert that other movie clip. So you'll use whatever tool they have to make a cut, and then move those files over a little bit. Can probably move these over a little bit this way, and then jam this guy into the middle. And then, like we were saying, you could put transitions in here where there's some kind of fancy swipe, or it could go to a text, and it's usually just as simple as typing some text somewhere and it turns into a little frame, right? So that's all unique to the software, but that's the general idea. Is you're going to get a window where your film strip or your videos are laying. You'll get your preview window, and then this is like stuff you might do to it. Like for whatever reason, if I want this film strip to be zoomed in, you know, I can zoom in on a corner, or I want to zoom in, but I want to zoom in right in the center. I can move it over, that kind of thing. So that's the, I don't know, you know, again, your screen is going to be laid out perhaps differently, but that's the kind of stuff that a video editor is going to do, and it's going to have some version of that kind of tools, right?
Right.
And I'll just try to delete all this before it saves it as some weird puppy video.
Puppy videos get millions and millions of views, G.
They do.
That's true. 2A puppy. Professor Puppy and her 2A history moment.
Exactly.
There you go. There you go. You could start a whole new series there.
All right. So we're not forcing these shows. They're supposed to be workshops. I know Ghost has got other things, you know, that he's using to pay bills, and Night Strike should be working on gun too. I don't even know why he's in here wasting his time over here. But in other words, we don't have to run this show. It's not, you know, a desperate attempt for views or anything. It's really just to create the platform, and the emails are out there. So if people don't jump in, we talk all the time. Ghost will have a show later on tonight, and so will Night Strike actually. But Ghost, you want to tell us about your show tonight?
Yeah, we're gonna do a show tonight that's gonna be a little bit different. I mean, I think everyone knows that SHOT Show's next week, and you've seen shows and all that already about SHOT Show. But we're gonna get a group of people that are from different sides of the industry. They're all gonna be at SHOT Show. I've got Casey with Antares Alliance. I've got Michael Sedini with Walk the Talk America and Eagle Imports, and Pincus, who's with 2A Org, with Personal Defense Network, with Walk the Talk, and then a bunch of us that are gonna be creators. But we're gonna talk about kind of behind the scenes of SHOT Show, about what we do to get ready for SHOT Show, but what the industry people, you know, what does Eagle Imports do to get ready for SHOT Show? What does Antares Alliance get ready for SHOT Shows? I don't think a lot of people really understand the massiveness and what it takes to put on SHOT Show from different angles. So we're going to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, that'll be neat. Would you say Pincus is 19 years?
I think he said it's his 23rd.
Holy crap. And then what about Jeff? You have any idea how long Jeff's been going?
I think Jeff, I forgot about Jeff from Gear Reports. I think Jeff's been going maybe 5 or 6, something like that. Maybe a bit longer, but like 5 or 6.
Yeah, anybody that's
and then Mike's will be his first year. So, I mean, it will have 23 years down to a rookie, you know?
Well, you're talking Mike MW, Tactical Mike, Michael Sandini or whatever.
That's right.
I'm suspecting, because I think he's in the Ever Eagle Imports, his family business, like his family.
Yeah, he's probably been around it most of his life, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's probably at least known about SHOT Show forever. But anyway, what I was getting at is I don't get to talk to people too often who've been going for a while, because the only people I know that have been going longer than me are Gun Blast. I never really talked to them. And then like Masada Yub, and I guess I don't know Pincus that well, but you know, the people in the 2A, like Alan Gottlieb and Larry Pratt, and you know, people like that, and the Knox brothers. But I never talked to them, especially not in live hangouts. I mean, so I think it'd be neat to talk about SHOT, because everybody's got this perception of SHOT, I suspect, because it came to the real light. At least the real-time version of SHOT has only existed since internet, and that's only existed since I've been kind of going through and looking at my SHOT Show coverage, and that's given me like more and more, you know, it's tough to think of 13 years worth of stuff, and a lot of it bleeds together. But as I start thinking about specific years again, think it was like 12 that Haas first started going to SHOT, and then it was like 13 or 14 before the other YouTubers figured it out, and then it was like what 3 or 4 years before people started going, oh, now SHOT's, we know what it is and we're bored with it and now we hate it, right? So it got into I don't know, this idea that people would go there and cover it live or whatever is relatively new or whatever. Anyway, I like to talk to people, or I'm interested in talking to people who've been going since before all that evolution. I don't know what it was like. I don't know when to even start thinking, because I got into it in 4 and 5, and there weren't digital pictures yet. There wasn't internet. I don't know what kind, if it was completely the same up until then, or if there was some other thing. I don't know, maybe new magazines. You know, there was a while there when there was just the hunting magazines, and then what was it, like the 80s or 90s that the police magazines and the survival and stuff started to get popular. Like, I would imagine it's possible that SHOT Show would have been covered by all hunting people, and then there must have been something that caused it to get into like police and military. So anyway, I'm interested in talking to people who've been going SHOT way longer than me to know, you know, what kind of trends and what kind of changes have SHOT Show had, because I'm getting more and more interested in this. Again, since we're kind of all new to the whole thing, as far as, you know, internet people and coverage of SHOT Show, we've influenced it a lot. And the more I've been thinking about it, we've influenced it a heck of a lot. And that's been unintentional, I suspect. So one of the things I'm thinking we might be able to harness by working together is doing some stuff with intent and doing it with a direction, so that once we're aware of what we've been able to do to change SHOT Show, keep changing it, you know, not just go, oh, wow, we changed it to make it real easy for us to cover, and then just stop right here. Well, you know, that would be lame. Let's keep tweaking it.
Yeah, I'll be interested in talking, because I know I've talked with you a bunch about the size of SHOT Show, the attendees when you first went. I would love to hear from Pincus, and 23 years ago, there might have been only a few thousand people for all we know.
10,000, yeah, exactly. I can't remember when I first started going. It was more like in the 30s, I guess. And I don't remember this. I just been figuring this out when I started looking. There's a list that has all the attendance dates or whatever, the attendance per date, and it was 30,000 back then. Back then, you could barely get through an aisle. Like, I don't know if the aisles were just physically together. Maybe I could look at my pictures, because I must have some pictures. You could not take pictures of the crowd though back then. Like, that was you get kicked out of media. Like, you couldn't take a picture of the crowd. So that was tough. I only have pictures from like up in the air looking down at where people just look like little dots. So I figured I could get away with that. But anyway, there might be a way to look and see, like, do some kind of measurements with the photos to see if the aisles got bigger or something. But again, being a smaller number of people, it was crowded. Like, you couldn't plan to be too many places, because you couldn't get there. Like, you knew that there was no highways in SHOT. You had to, it was all side streets. You were going to be elbowing through people no matter where you went. I guess the old convention center wasn't all that great. I don't remember Florida being like that at all. So maybe it was just a bigger square foot place, same amount of people, bigger square foot, didn't seem so bad. But yeah, I don't know. Just got to be amazing when there's 10,000 people showing up versus 60. It's got to be a different show, right?
Oh, it has to be, this is only my second year, so I can't imagine, what it would have been like with 10,000, because I know that the craziness that I've experienced is off the chart. But yeah, I mean, it'd be really interesting to hear from some of the guys that have been there for a long time.
Like saying, you think that SHOT Show would by default be Pro 2A. I mean, it's definitely Pro 2A, but I suspect that whenever guns aren't popular in society, I guess, then they're going to not be all like, let's be like Night Strike. Let's all be, shall not be infringed from the rooftops, right? They're going to say, hey, yeah, we care about the Second Amendment, but let's shut up and stay in business over here in the corner. And
so let's focus towards law enforcement and military.
SHOT Show?
Oh, the companies that attend, right?
maybe 40% military and law enforcement. Military and law enforcement is all in its own area for the most part. And even like Glock, not Glock, like most of the well, Glock too, but most of the companies, even Spyderco and Benchmade and Colton Smith, anybody who has like enough to have a separate military line, let's say, will have a presence in the military section and then a different presence over in the other section. And then some of them, like again, depending on what they are, like a Benchmade is a good example. They'll probably have 3 or 4 booths. One of them in like the hunting, where the boots and the clothing and that kind of stuff are for like gutting and those kind of knives. They'll have your CCW section for like everyday carry, useful kind of knives that people are going to carry, let's say. And then they'll have a section for your law enforcement, like special duty, utility, and maybe special tools. So they'll have booths dedicated to or focused on parts of their line if they got a large enough line or if they have a diverse enough, difference between their lines or something. But anyway, the military is maybe 40%. It's certainly not the majority of shot. And it's, I would say, of the attendees, there's nowhere near half of them are going to military. I would say 30 or 40 are there for military side of it. But I think there's less attendees there for the military stuff than there is for there's gun shops, man. Gun shops aren't military and police. Gun shops are us, regular people, CCW, hunting, competitive shooting, like investment and collection, and then just your random people buying tools. There's tons of gun owners that are just like, oh, I'm going to go buy a gun. I think my neighbor's a jerk. I'm going to go buy a gun or whatever.
Well, on top of that, you didn't even brought up the whole supplier showcase. I mean, that's a huge part of SHOT Show in itself,
Right.
The materials and the processes and the creation, like they'll have the people that sew stuff up there, or the people that you got an idea, they fabricate it for you. Yeah, that whole part. And then like, where do you buy zippers from, and where do you buy the nylon straps for your backpacks and all that? That's a whole nother, I don't know, probably 20% of shot is all that stuff. And then there's a weird 10% right in the middle that's like some fucking place from Sweden out of no reason, and then like the Schmidt and Bender optics, it costs $1 billion, and then I don't know, some air gun for somebody who freaking really likes air guns that cost $1 billion, but it's like the international yellow section there, kind of right in the middle for some reason. And anyway, that's a whole nother section there.
Yeah, there's you have the next part, which are the up and coming ones, and they've got something new this year called a pop-up review on Wednesday up on the 5th floor. And these are even newer companies or even smaller companies that might have one product that they've put their entire life savings in to try to innovate something. And that's exciting for me, is to see these companies that are passionate about innovation and seeing literally someone who's putting everything they have into their company, and hopefully it hits a home run that 1 week of the year. So there's a whole lot of different parts and aspects of SHOT Show that are interesting.
Okay, so we started this with Michael's question. You think SHOT Show would by default be Pro 2A? So again, it's Pro 2A, but they're also, I think they're not, they're intentionally not being NRA. Like, they are not an NRA show. I'm sure that they're aware that the other big show is the NRA show. So there's got to be some intentional like difference between, like, the NRA has a presence there for sure because they have money and they can buy, space, and they have banners, and if they're going to put a banner that says "Welcome to SHOT," like NRA will often buy that banner. Or like above a door or something, they'll figure out ways to create advertising revenue, and NRA will take them up on that. But I don't know if that's perceived as NRA being affiliated with it at all. But this is a separate entity for the industry, and although a lot of the industry supports NRA, it's certainly not a back and forth or whatever, right? So NRA is there and everything, but they don't. I don't know if it's either. I don't really know. Somebody should ask Gun Owners of America why they don't set up at SHOT. But that would be the big one that you would think would be there. So Second Amendment Foundation has a small table. I don't know if it's given to them. I've never asked, or if I did, I forgot. But
it's in the corner. You would think that they're not paying a whole lot for that,
That's why I'm saying it's either given to them, so they give them a spot that nobody uses, like that nobody's in demand for. But it is upstairs, and if they are paying for it, maybe they're paying for like the most inexpensive spot upstairs, because they're definitely like they're in a corner by Rock Island and by Keltec. So I mean, there's stuff to go to back there, but you just don't. It's next to that international section I was telling you about, and there's also like a bunch of boring shit. Like I don't know what the hell they are. Like the really cheap knives are back in that corner, like the knives at truck stops and stuff. Like that kind of stuff is back in that corner, I think. The stuff that you're going to put in and around, like on like magnetic stuff to a gun safe, or like little racks you're going to put in a gun safe. It's like that stuff is in that area. So yeah, it's kind of a weird area that unless you're trying to stock your gun shop or something, or your truck stop, then you're probably not just browse in that area. Most people walk right through it. There's some like picture frames or something back there. Anyway, so Second Amendment Foundation is there, but they don't do anything crazy. It's just a yellow tablecloth, a shit ton of bumper stickers and some patches, and then they are there to talk to you. And I think they've been trying to do some effort with training or something. So the last couple of years they've been talking about that, but nothing elaborate. They certainly don't spend any. What do they spend? $200 on their booth? You know, it's nothing.
I mean, I spent about 20 minutes with them last year, and yeah, I mean, they're there to answer questions, but they're not there to make a political statement. They're there to talk about what they do. And I think last year they were talking about getting some training certifications. So I mean, they're talking about their stuff, but they're not there to make a political statement while they're there.
So I'm just trying to set the stage. And then, unlike NRA's show, they devote 20% or 20%, I think, of their floor space to hobbyists and collectors and gun owners' rights groups and nonprofits. Maybe not gun owners' rights, but at least nonprofits. So they're not going to have Gun Owners America and Second Amendment Foundation in there, but they have like the Tommy gun collectors, and like this one collector one time had every uniform from like the women's different branches of the services, like in World War II and stuff, to let people know like what their grandmas were doing back in the war. And like they had like the Glock collectors, they had like the Civil War poker gun collectors, like all the different Chicago Derringers and stuff, like people that collect those. So the SHOT Show used to do an area for that kind of stuff, and for all the all the waterfowl and conservation things, and all the elk and the buffalo and all the different hunting organizations that were like conservation, or like the 4-H and the other what are they all, scholastic shooters and the after school shooting programs, and they'd have sections for that, and it used to be right in front of media room. They kicked all that out of there. I don't know where they put it. So SHOT is historically like industry, which is fine, but again, the way that we've influenced it technologically, and the way that we've influenced the rate and the amount of content that comes from it. Again, talking to Pincus, back in the day, you'd go to SHOT Show as a media, you would take a bunch of pictures, and I'm assuming get wined and dined. Those are read the Glock book and look at what SHOT Show was like in the 80s. It was like freaking a Miami Vice episode. So I imagine back in the day, you got wined and dined, you carried your old-fashioned film camera around, you took some pictures, and you got a bunch of free guns, I'm assuming, and then you'd go get them delivered at some point, in the old mail, and then back in the olden days, there was no email, so they would go home and unpack all their stuff, and then physically put guns in mail. I imagine, get a phone call from your gun shop and eventually go over there. No hurry, because you're writing for something that isn't going to come out for 9 months after you write the article anyway. So somewhere around November, we'd start seeing stuff from SHOT Show right about when SHOT Show is about to start again. So that kind of speed and pace had to be the norm for forever, for like a long time during SHOT Show. And then at some point, it turned into, well, I'm gonna take these digital pictures, and I don't need no time to edit these, and I've got a blog, I don't have a print article or print magazine. And then eventually it was like, this is going up on YouTube. And now it's like, we're on Instagram Live right now. Like, this is live. Like, there's 25 people or 25,000 people with me right now walking into your booth. All that's changed, all that's influenced. They can gripe and moan about it because nobody's going to be able to stop any of that, but at the same time, don't we have the influence to say, hey, let's all clap, or let's all let them know that that's important to us. These, whatever you want to describe, like awareness of Second Amendment issues and laws. We have history months, we have something awareness months. We have how many weeks? Maybe each week is something awareness week, and we talk about the gun issues, some kind of campaign like that. Or how many organizations are there? There's got to be 50. Each organization gets an awareness each week. What would it be like if each of the manufacturers out there that spend money on advertising, so the ones that can afford to and think it's necessary and worthwhile, if they were to take, I don't know, let's say $1,200 and devote $100, like Artisan Tony's doing, basically $1,200 each month. A gun owners' rights group gets the recipient, or on a different scale, maybe $100 a week goes to an organization. Now they got 52 opportunities, $5,000 a year. I'm sure they spend kind of money in advertising. What would it be like if all of a sudden that kind of campaign was happening, and they get to brag about 50 organizations that they help at the tune of $100? If 10 organizations did that, that's $1,000 a week coming into all those. Am I doing the math right, or am I crazy?
Yeah, you're right.
So, can we as audience, the people that are absorbing all this stuff, have influence on the other people that are asking, or, that are there covering? Most of us go, hey, what do you want to see? Because there's so much to see, I guess a couple of people are like, I'm going to see this and this and this, and you're going to follow me along. But I think people,
right.
A lot of people are like, what should I go look at? I can go look at anything. Give me some direction. Like say you got 5 or 6 things you're going to do, but, you're looking for help from the people that, support you, and people that view what you're doing. What do you guys want to see? So, whatever. Are we challenging as audience? Are we challenging our audience? Are we as audience challenging the people that are holding cameras, giving them some direction, or just following what they do?
I got a question for you to kind of tie in the whole 2A to SHOT Show. I wasn't there obviously in 2013. I'm assuming that I don't know how to say it, but the air in 2013 after Sandy Hook, I'm assuming that there was probably more 2A stuff being more in the community, being more together, because we were under attack from the government as far as AR-15 and all that. Now that there is starting to be some pretty hellacious bills being produced right now in Congress, do you think the vibe this year will be similar to 2013, 2014, or what do you think the vibe will be this year as far as the 2A goes?
In 13, nobody knew nothing. We got slapped with that, and it happened at SHOT Show. The 23 orders where everybody shut up, and they brought down TV screens out of the middle of the thing all over the place. All the different booths would have their TVs tuned, or whatever, their internet's tuned to Obama's speech. If I remember correctly, it went down like that. And then we were all in there. You know what I mean? Like, that happened at that point. Now, it wasn't like there's protocol and procedure. Like, everyone open up Schedule C and use Protocol 4, activate. And we all did it. Everybody reacted, and that's, I don't know, it might be a little bit of doom on Obama for doing it right in the middle of the industry show, because, your initial reaction to getting kicked in the nuts is to grimace and then look around to see who else got kicked in the nuts. And if a bunch of people got kicked in the nuts, you get really angry really fast, right? So they would have done that to us all kind of individually, sitting in our living rooms and going, dope, and communicating like this about it. That's different than when everybody can look around and go, holy crap, this is us they're doing that to. I don't know how much of an influence that had, or if anyone can know that or what, but I suspect that was some of it. I'm just saying that we didn't have like a rule book. It wasn't like everybody was like, okay, we're about to kick the shit out of them, let's get ready. It was just like, wow. And it was interesting. I'm trying to remember back then. I can remember the bits and pieces, but that's a long years ago and a lot of stuff. But it definitely wasn't like somebody stood up and went, let's get them, and then everybody charged. It was just sort of a crazy situation where we all knew that something was serious, was imminent, like something that we hadn't experienced, in our, I don't know if you want to call it, people that are there in the industry, like holding the reins at the moment, whether or not you like it or not, those are the people that are there, representing the industry at all different levels. They're holding the reins. They're the ones that are of fighting age, right? They're there. So it doesn't matter if you signed on for all this or not, you're in it. So I think there was a bit of that, and everybody had to realize that or something. So obviously worked out pretty well. Everybody seemed to get together pretty well. It's interesting now, kind of as a side thing, I'm hearing people now look back on it as if they organized the whole thing or like they were responsible. Organizations more than people, but I'm like, wow, that's interesting because I never perceived it that way. But anyway, nobody certainly got up and said, this is what just happened to us and this is what we can do. Who's with me? So it was just sort of definitely the weirdest show ever. It was weird, and it wasn't like ka-ching and then everybody started selling like a madhouse stock market thing or whatever that thing's called. You know, when you hear the bell go and everybody started trading. It wasn't like that, and it wasn't like everyone just walked home, which is sad. It was like, you know, the
shock and awe almost.
No, like what happens when you get kicked in the nuts? You go, fuck.
Yeah.
And you go up and you get around in your business. It's not like you're going to kick anybody back. So anyway, there was certainly a bit of, I don't know. That would be interesting. I think that it takes it would take time, and it would be interesting to hear from other people because I certainly go to SHOT with a different view than everybody else. I'm sure a gun shop owner being there and experiencing it would have a different reaction than somebody who works for a company that goes to it every single year, you know, or in Pincus who's been to it, you know, for a bigger, you know, even longer span. But anyway, so 13 was like getting kicked in the nuts and getting up. It wasn't even a black eye, you know, we didn't have nothing except getting the pain out of it, but it just happened. Fast forward to 15, where we already experienced 13 and the resistance and the successful resistance, and then a little bit of the apathy. And then 15 comes along and he's like, oh, they're going to take it this time. And the ATF reverses their opinion on whether or not you can shoulder a brace. And all of a sudden, the act of shouldering a brace is manufacturing a short barrel rifle. That happened on Friday at 5 p.m. or something, Eastern time, as we were live on some show. It just came out as a memorandum. People were literally in the travel, you know, to get to SHOT Show. So that was a different one. They had social media was already in its own. We had established reach and people that were caring about SHOT Show. It wasn't yet to the point where SHOT Show was like, oh, we hate SHOT Show already because everybody tells us it's shitty. So you get you know, that was a different SHOT Show. That was a bunch of people pissed and ready to do what they did before. And yeah, that was I think an invigorating one. But again, it'd be interesting to listen to other people's opinion of those ones.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I mean, this will be interesting for me, you know, being my second year at SHOT Show. But you know, there have been some gruesome bills, not only at the federal but the state level, that are out there that could spread to other states, and it'll be interesting to see what the tone is this year. You know.
Well, okay, so that's true. However, do we set the tone?
That's a good question. That's a great question. Yeah.
So I think, you know, at some extent, we're, especially in these workshops, we're going to try to allow focus on, you know, the Second Amendment is what we care about because the Second Amendment protects the First, but the First Amendment's pretty fucking cool. So First Amendment allows us to gather, allows us to believe what we think and without prosecution or persecution about it. It allows us to say what we want and some other stuff that's cool. So, and the press, I guess we need that one too for what we're doing. So, you know, we're so much involved in the second. I don't know if we realize we're all, you know, we're soaking in the first. And you know, I guess we're press, but we're not because none of us have gone to school for this probably. We're definitely not credentialed or anything in some like governmental official way. And I don't know how we have to or should or do deal with the moral or whatever, or the ethical, you know, that's part of journalism is knowing your power and your reach and the repercussions of it and the consequences and the responsibilities and all that. So I'm pretty sure we're all pretty much skimming that around like a bunch of kids. But fuck it, if we can hide behind, you know, not being real generalists, then real journalists aren't supposed to touch anything. You know, documentary isn't supposed to influence whatever they're documenting, right? We don't have to play by those rules. We can cover this thing the way that our granddaddies covered stuff because they were emulating journalists who were trying to document. I think documentation is going a little bit different. There's not just 5 or 6 people taking pictures of a tribe anymore. The tribe has selfies. So, you know, do you want to take some guys, you know, slices of a culture, or do you want to just experience the effing culture? So if we're going to look at it that now going forward, what we're creating is a giant, multi-viewed version perspective of, the SHOT Show or the Second Amendment community or whatever, then I don't think we have to be bound. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy here. I'm just talking in a workshop, but I don't think, do we have to be bound by that idea that we're there to see and not influence? Because I say, fuck that. We can influence, and why not exercise that influence that we get stronger and better at it? What we end up with is a community that's united in a different way, in a good way, a healthy way. We've accomplished something like perhaps resisting some tyranny. Ideally, once we've learned to work together and resist some tyranny, we push against some of the existing tyranny and question it. So if nothing else, we make them go to our ambush. We're going to continually, every year, they're going to be like the effing gun owners. They keep challenging background checks. They keep challenging the 4473. We have to spend all our money defending the 4473. If we win, the 4473 goes away. If we lose, they didn't effort towards the assault weapons ban. So I think we've got nothing to lose and a lot to win if we work as 2A media towards changing what the influence of our coverage or our influence on the show.
I agree 100%. I mean, I think that, you brought up many times that the entire industry is at one place. And yes, it is not a 2A rally. We understand that. That's not what SHOT Show is. But what it could be is a place for everyone to maybe get a consolidated message out. And when we leave Vegas next week, whether it's the industry and the media, the gun shops, and everyone else in the organizations, at least maybe possibly we leave with some sort of a message to say, hey, we can all attack this way. And like you said, we might defend and we might beat the 4473. But if we lose, they've had to spend a lot of their resources defending that and not worrying about the assault weapons ban or whatever. So there are different ways to attack. We don't have to get all these victories, because every little small victory or even a defeat could help in a victory of another session. So I think that just trying to get everybody somewhat on a message when we leave there, and attacking orders and marching orders and all that would be awesome. But I don't know if that's able to do that or not, but there's no reason why we couldn't try that for sure.
And I don't know if that's not our only option either, to have united something. Because if we, let's say, like for me, I have my little champion where if I see somebody holding putting the flag up the wrong way, I'll usually go out of my way to walk over there and go, hey, your flag's hanging the wrong way. And then if they're like, I don't care, then I'll call them out on it and make them known that they're a dick. And then I'll walk on, because, not that big a deal, but I usually take that effort. Imagine with people's opinion on the NRA today, if the media who decided to go in and influence instead of just report, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not. I'm not suggesting this is the only way to do it. I'm just throwing it out here in the workshop as a pondering type of thing. But what if the people with an opinion on the NRA were to take a pause, walk up to, say, whoever's, hey, who can I talk to that's like a manager or whatever, the equivalent, who's in charge of the booth, and then let them know, hey, I've got a XYZ amount of audience. Most of us are not real happy with the NRA. I don't know if that's doing you any help. And then just walk away, not scold them, just give them a little heads up that, hey, in my opinion, this isn't helping you. Having maybe, Pro 2A up there, which is just, blah, 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 or maybe a local organization. So are you spending money on something local? Maybe, focus on that. And I think you'll get more reach with my audience, and just give them some actual insight. Those people are there in the business mode. So they spent a heck of a lot of money on that display. And if they're defaulting to an NRA thing, thinking that's pandering, or, to most people are going to like this, it's NRA. It's like a flag or something. If you were to say, this isn't that great, they might go, oh, snap, I never even put any thought into it. Let me go put some thought into it. So if each member of media who has an opinion on the NRA decided to stop and make a point of talking, number one, it could have influence or impact, an echo, right, from the show. But perhaps that person who has an opinion one way or the other on the NRA and talk to that many people who are proud of the NRA, maybe if they had an open mind, they'd hear some other perspective on the whole thing. And they might, if they're open to change their mind, change, their perception of it, or at least know better what other people's position is and be able to then focus your argument or debate, more precisely and more accurately to the actual people's opinion. And again, you can grow from the experience and you can offer a lasting echo.
Well, I think another thing that you've been trying to champion here in the last month or so, well, for a long time, but at least for the month or so, we've been talking about it privately, is when we up at these booths, having the courage to ask these companies that are these booths a question of, hey, what Second Amendment organizations does your company support? And I might put them on the spot, and they may not want to answer it right there because they may not know or they don't want to answer, but you're going to plant that seed and say, there is more than one organization like the NRA out there. There's a lot of other ones, and asking these questions to them will at least make them think about what they're doing. So I think that's a wonderful plan also.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be adversarial. You can be like, oh, don't worry about it. I know I put you on the spot. I can edit that out. And
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
And then that likely say, though, but now they're like, oh, snap, I never thought about that. And if anybody else asks them, they'll have thought about it and they might have an answer. And like you say, they'll kind of subtly figure out that just putting an NRA poster up ain't winning nothing. That ain't doing nothing. Might be hurting them, depending on the audience, right?
Exactly. It's exactly. Yeah. Because it's interesting, and I want to take the kind of the media's perspective a little bit, because we know a lot of our viewers are not happy with the NRA, and they make it very vocally known every time we have a show about the NRA. And I wonder, this is one of those things, I'm sure to a certain extent they do, but I wonder how many of these massive companies actually are in tune with their consumers, which are the everyday person. And if they knew that the vast majority of people seem to be, howling about anti-NRA, I wonder if that would change their thought decision on which organizations they would support, or maybe add to their repertoire of who they support. Because obviously it comes down to people may not support a company if the only one they're supporting is the NRA because they don't like the NRA. So, maybe it is kind of ours to take to these companies and say, look, there are a lot of our viewers out there that are very mad and very vocal against the NRA. What other organizations aside from the NRA are you supporting? And that might open up the discussion as well. Or I just killed the chat, one of the two.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm trying to agree. Looks like Mike is taking off, but again, thanks for jumping in. And I was also going to look at what I told everybody we were going to talk about today. So getting ready for SHOT Show 2009. Kind of talked about that a little bit. We'll talk about that off and on, I suppose. Plans for 2019. So, I don't know, Night Strike, what do you got planned for 2019?
One, I'm going to try and make it to Tulsa. I'm going to do a ton of videos because I found a ton of museums in the area that do have, historical guns and whatnot on display. So I'm going to go and visit a bunch of those this year. I had planned on doing it last year, didn't pan out. This year, I'm going to double my efforts to do it this year. So, I also want to see if I can get to the gun rights policy conference, because that would be a little easier for me to go to, because I've got family in the Phoenix area, so because I'm originally from the Phoenix area, so there you go.
So that's 9 months or 10 months. I don't know when it's going to actually be yet, so we don't know, but it'll be about, let's say, 9 months away. Let's say it's going to cost you $900 to get there. $100 a month into the Gun Rights Policy Fund. I'm going to be
$25 a week. Just put it in a savings account.
Right.
There you go. So I'm going to be doing everything I can to make it the coolest one ever. I don't know. I figure why the hell not, right? Change the dynamic a little bit. Alan Gottlieb started this when he was 24 years old. Started the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. A couple of years later, he started Second Amendment Foundation in 1976. They started doing the Gun Rights Policy Conference, or was it 80? Anyway, 34 years ago, they started doing the Gun Rights Policy Conference. Started, I think, in San Francisco or Seattle and San Francisco, and then every year it's in a different city, alternating between gun-friendly and anti-gun states. and it's been tremendous. And it allows the national level, the local level, and the individual researchers and authors and activists to gather at a conference for 2 days and collaborate and network and experience each other's enthusiasm. It's difficult to describe, but it's definitely encouraging, and it's been an awesome effort. It is an awesome effort. I don't want to say has been like it's over. So I just want to potentially add to that. You know, we're going to be in Arizona, so I'm right here. We've got the Arizona Citizens Defense League will be hosting it. Arizona Citizens Defense League started in like 2001, and it was a bunch of people that didn't even live in Arizona. They moved here, and we're like, hey, I thought Arizona was supposed to be awesome for guns, and it's not that different from where I live. So they sat down at a Waffle House one afternoon, 5 of them. 4 of them eventually started the organization, and a few years later, the thousands of members, not like hundreds or tens of, I don't even think tens of, just thousands of members. And they petitioned, they learned how to do the work, and went to Congress here, the state legislator, and created bills, and started to network and learn the system, and introduced constitutional carry in Arizona in 2009. It was passed in July 30th of 2010. We've now had 9 years of constitutional carry. Anyone who's legal to own a gun can carry a gun any way that they want, any how that they want. And 9 years later, no blood on the streets, probably less crime, I don't know, but that's the kind of organization that is going to be hosting the Gun Rights Policy Conference this year. We've got resources in Phoenix that are tremendous. We've got a massive gun industry in this state. We've got Prescott, which is only an hour away. We've got a huge shooting facility. The Ben Avery range in Phoenix is like Olympic level, you know, international event level range. We've got probably dozens of other ranges to shoot at. And I'm hoping with people like Cheryl Todd from Gun Freedom Radio and others that are based in Arizona that we can do something awesome with the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and maybe challenge the host cities or the organizations in the states that the host cities are in to make the Gun Rights Policy Conference as awesome or better than any other yearly event, so that it doesn't become a boring, dry thing that happens with all the nerds, but instead, again, Second Amendment is approachable and accessible and interesting, and the necessity to keep this thing going isn't a challenge and a burden, but instead sort of fun and something that everyone can participate in. That kind of community, that kind of unification, the political strategists walk away from that. They wouldn't even come near us with gun bills. They'd know that we're too strong. They would leave us alone. So we would be able to just sit around having fun and removing laws, you know, saving places like New Jersey and New York and California. Fancy future going forward. So anyway, I'm hoping that we can kind of change the dynamic of the Gun Rights Policy Conference, offer some workshops or some kind of shooting things the days ahead of time. We know lots of instructors. We know lots of community organizers, I guess, you know, people that do stuff, and set some of that stuff up to happen so that people come to the conference who might not have, because of all the fun stuff we're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it turns into something that's absolutely huge. Like you said, not only once a year, but the end goal, like you said, with every second matters, why can't we do this once a month instead of having to wait to the summer of every year?
Right. Oh, sir, that's a question I'll be asking every single person in SHOT Show that I've already approached that with, especially the ones who told me, yeah, that's a great idea. Well, there's been 2 since then, right? And we are going to pass up before, you know, we do take the advantage of meeting each other before an event like that. All right, so Ghost, we got going on in 19. You don't even have any plans.
I don't have any plans. I'm just kind of going with the flow. No, I think everyone that kind of people that know my channel and know my mission, my 2 major missions are, you know, concealed carry, putting yourself in the first line of defense, receive training to be more proficient. So the 2 major projects I have, we've kind of taken drill of the month to a different level. We got sponsors now, and they jumped on board. They like the idea of trying to catalog different drills for people every month whether they're fun, a competition, it is great. But in the end game is to create a catalog of free drills with free targets for anyone out there that wants to go to the range and try to become more proficient. And we're going to try to, create a place that they don't have to go spend money if they can't afford to go get training. We're going to give you a bunch of drills that might help you just become more proficient with your firearm in general. And the big project is Operation Training Day that me and Michael Woodland are working on. We've already got, it's amazing how quickly it's blown up. My next training is going to be for a week over in Georgia in March with Bill Rogers. And, we're going to go with Pincus. We're going to get in with Costa. We're going to get in with Shoot and Move, obviously Jaeger, Bill Rogers. We've already had so many people contact us that say, hey, we're in. Kevin Dixie's No Other Choice Training. We've got a lot of people that said, hey, let's do this, because what we want to do is kind of dispel what people think firearms training is. It's not just tactical stuff and all of that stuff. It's basic handgun skills. It's basic rifle skills. It's long range shooting. It's close quarter combat. But it also goes into medical training, first aid, first response type of stuff that can help you in everyday life. And there are a lot of people out there that just maybe misunderstand what firearms training is, or they have questions. They want to start taking training, but they don't know where to go or who to go see and what can you expect. So we're going to go all over the country and train from local people to some of the most world-renowned trainers in the world. And we're going to go experience their training, video it, document, interview some of the students to find out why normal everyday people are at this training. And that might help to where people are out there looking to figure out what's training is and where should I go. It will help them maybe understand what it is and where they should go. So we're really trying to push training on people, and we're trying to push concealed carry. We're trying to push just being a more proficient, firearms owner and gun owner, because that's my side of the Second Amendment. If I can get people interested in carrying every day, in my opinion, that does two things. It spreads the gospel of Second Amendment when everybody's carrying every day, and it makes our country a safer place. But other than that, I've got nothing going on.
Done. And then in addition to that, which is sort of a year-long project or an ongoing project, you're planning on NRA?
I will be at NRA up in Indianapolis. I will do, I right now already got my calendar marked for the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix. Obviously Wanamaker in April and November. And on top of that, I'm trying to spread the good news at my local range. I'm now the pistol director at my local range. So I'm going to be doing classes and clinics for women and children, families, anyone that wants to come out on a weekly clinic and try to introduce more people and try to explain that firearms aren't scary if you know how to do it safely and responsibly. So I'm trying to express that message also.
That's valid, and I think it'll be useful for you, because once you can accumulate maybe, I guess ideally like 30 people locally, you could get to that level in Little Rock or whatever that would come up and experience real training. That would work into your other project, because you could then bring people to your range, like you be the host.
Yeah, then, Katie's planning on coming down. That'd be awesome.
See, because that's the way that you don't have to do the travel. It gets that out of there, and it facilitates it, because usually when you're the host, they let you shoot, and sometimes a friend of yours or something. So that's cool. So then there's a little bit less cost, and you don't feel like you're mooching off of them. You're providing a service, and then you're, like I say, if you can get 30 people that fill a 20-person class every time. That's kind of cool, because most cities don't get somebody who's active like that to bring the people in. It's not like instructors ain't interested in going around and teaching. That's what they're in the business for, right? But they don't have the facilities to explore every range and how many people would show up and, put it on a schedule and stuff. But when you start something like that, I've seen it out here in Arizona, where as soon as a couple of people realized that the ranges were amenable to it, and that they had, like easily 50 people here in Tucson. We're a little bit bigger, I guess. But, 50 people that would make sure that, a class of 20 would always be filled, if not to bursting at the seams, That made it so the instructors dig coming down to Arizona. So anyway, yeah, I think that's, you've got something that you're working on there that's got, like you say, it's advantages all over. It's helping a lot of people out.
Well, I think the cool thing about it is this is kind of where the YouTube thing and the 2A media has helped, because over the last year, I've really got to know a lot of people that I never would have probably ever got to meet if I was just to, sit at my house and go to the range every now and then. But someone like KD, who I'm friends with now, and asking KD to come down and him coming down, well, not only does that help bring exposure to the people that do know Kevin Dixie, but what if there are people that never heard of Kevin Dixie and they come to the training? Now Kevin's message, and we all know what Kevin's message is, it's a wonderful message, but now Kevin's message is able to spread out to places that may not have ever heard of him before. So it's all spreading everything. It's hopefully we work hand in hand to help everybody else out.
And then to elaborate on that, when we say Kevin's message, if you're not familiar, we're talking about Kevin Dixie, who has a training class or a training school, I guess, called No Other Choice, or NOC training. And then he's got another thing called Aiming for the Truth. We had him on a while back, and what Ghost is talking about isn't just like a theory on, how to draw a pistol, or, some insight as to, the best tactics for a gunfight. He's got his own, I haven't experienced the training, but everybody says it's decent. He has had a lot of experiences from law enforcement, and then just as an enthusiastic student, learned a lot, and I guess brings a lot of useful stuff to his classes as far as the instruction, but that's only a portion of his focus. His other focus is on the Aiming for the Truth, which is kind of developed from his just interest in helping other people and in coaching and counseling people with their, dealing with like a strange dad dealing with kids, a family who's got a dad who'd like to be involved, but how, it's just giving people, I think, the way he says, equity in their life situation, right? So he does some outreach and some one-on-one stuff over the years that then developed into, because he had so many people that were interested in reaching out, and he was interested in reaching so many of these people that it turned into more like a seminar or a get-together. And that Aiming for the Truth kind of developed from, the growth of that concept, that idea that he's, in an area that he grew up in, and he's got an investment in that area, and he's got an interest and willingness and the time to devote to it. Then he's, grown it to this level. And then additionally, and I want to give him credit for this, because I don't think he would even suggest he's the only one doing that. There's lots of people who are like that in this country, and they're doing it all over the place. But Kevin's unique to some extent because he takes it to the next step and provides, a glimpse of that. He shares it with the web, using the social media platforms pretty efficiently, networking with people like us and others who can help him get the word out on the stuff he's doing. And then he does it in a kind of a savvy, he does it in a way that it's popular and it's interesting and it's useful, the stuff that he's putting out there. In other words, it's not just boilerplate, lecture, or it's not like just all info, so it's dry and bland, and he's doing it in an interesting way, and it's real. And in that, when you can share that with people, it blew my mind. It's one of those things where I didn't even know that was a concept, let alone that people were doing it to this extent where he's brought like 70 families together, and then again, doing it with success as far as sharing it. Like, I didn't even know that was a concept. I didn't know that was a thing. So when you can share all of that with people, and that takes a minute to even describe, right? Like, and I'm barely just describing it. When you meet Kevin, he's one of those people where you just, what do you call it? He like has the energy just.
He has it, whatever that is.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing, like you say, that when you're sharing that with people, that's not the same thing as watching a video or hearing like us describe it. Like, that's cool that you're creating a situation where you can bring them in, touch that many people, because then they go out and do whatever works they're going to do with that insight,
Yeah, and that's the whole thing is, there's so many different ways to support and to defend the Second Amendment, but the biggest is just word of mouth and spreading the positive message. And there's so many different messages in our community that some of them get lost, and you have someone that could be as powerful as Kevin, and when you hear him talk, he's a wonderful public speaker. He can really get you intrigued in what he's saying. And the best thing we can do is people like him and like Maj and like different people that are trying to do something different within our own community. We've got to give them a platform to get out there and be known and be heard.
And that's where, again, this is all about the involvement, right? It's you're able, people are willing to share and to get help, and you figure out once you get involved when it, what you're interested in, and you might jump in thinking, oh, I'm going to do live videos with these guys, and go, yeah, it was okay, but man, I really like these pictures on Instagram, or I really like the blog that they're doing over here. That's my style. So there's lots and lots and lots of potential that can happen when somebody gets involved with it in some way or another.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we talk all the time on YouTube and all of that, and there's a lot of people that may be YouTube centric, but there's a whole other vast amount of people that, like you said, read blogs, or they're reading magazines still, and they're still doing all this other and the other. And if our community seems to be YouTube centric, or whatever you want to call it, there's a whole lot of people that are being missed out there. So the print media and all that stuff, the bloggers, they're still very valid, and it's just a lot of people may not know about them yet.
Well, people over here, they certainly know about it, but they're
that's what I'm saying. People that are YouTube centric, yes. Yeah,
because the same thing is true on their side. They got a bunch of people reading stuff that don't have any interest or ability maybe to go on a phone and watch a bunch of videos or go on the internet and all that. So anyway, so once we all get together, we'll have all kinds of challenges and hurdles, but I'm assuming we'll all have all kinds of new opportunities.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's really cool is I started, a podcast up a few months ago, and that was a whole new realm for me, because I was just floored at how many people were commenting and sending me emails to the Armed Citizen podcast that said, oh man, that's awesome stuff. I hadn't heard of you before, because they don't watch YouTube. They don't look at Instagram. They listen to podcasts while they're driving down the road every day. And that's a whole nother avenue that we have to explore. And I really enjoyed the podcast side of things, which that's another project that's going to be huge for 2019.
Well, that was one of the next segments, I guess, using social media in 2019. I'm going to throw them all out there, though, so we can choose what we want to talk about. And then I had in here tools for the trade for 2A media in 2019. Not totally sure what I meant for that. Maybe, anyway, we can dig into that. And then last, Gunstreamer's big news reveal. And for some reason, they're doing it on Hank Strange's show. So does anybody know what time that is happening compared to now?
6 o'clock Central, 7 Eastern is when he starts every night.
So that's an hour and 15 minutes from now?
Yeah, sure.
And when is your show?
Mine is 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Right in the middle of it.
An hour after that. 2 hours and 15 minutes from now. Okay.
Yeah.
And then nobody knows what time Night Strike show is on. It's at some point.
It's hit or miss. Tuesday nights, 10 o'clock.
Does anybody watch the show now that Smeggy's not around to promote it?
What?
Does anybody even say that anymore now that Smeggy's not around to promote it?
Wow, that hurts, man.
What?
Yes, people still say it. Yes.
All right. I don't know. I never hear
because I've continued the tradition, even though Smeggy has ditched me and gone on to bigger and better things. I will still continue doing hit or miss because I started hit or miss.
So do you feel like a small puppy that was all at a puppy mill, and then Smeggy came by and took you home and gave you a nice bed, and then at some point kicked you back out into the alley? Or you feel like a little teddy bear that was at the store lonely, and then Smeggy came and took you home, and then he was all happy for a while, and now you're in like the bottom of a hamper with like a bunch of little clothes on top of you?
I'm not sure how I feel.
Those are the two ways I assume you feel. One of those two ways.
One of those. I'm not quite sure.
Wheelchair is saying Night Strike has a show. Some people call it that. I mean, everybody's effort is valued, right?
All I know is I put up posters of Smeggy, and no one contacted me. So, I guess
you should have tried it on a nut milk.
I probably should have. Yeah. Maybe I should use chocolate milk.
But you also understand that he's a snowman. It's wintertime. This is his big time of year. So he's in demand in a lot of different places right now.
I know. I'm not arguing. It's just he's taken so much time off. I'm just wondering if he's melted or not.
Anyway. Well, are you still paying him through all this vacation time?
Oh no, absolutely not. He's taking way too much vacation. So, anyways.
Didn't mean to derail that, G. Sorry about that.
I was just bringing a little humor into it. But,
well, I know that he was wanting to talk about, media and all of that. What are you planning on, Nightshake? What are you planning on doing with? I know you said you're going to try to do more videos, but do you have anything on utilizing this to get a message out? I mean, what are your plans for 2019 to utilize our media presence?
Hold on, I was muted, but I got this text really late one night from him, right?
Oh, see, he's just drinking and having a good time.
So later on, I saw this one in the news, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh, he had too good of a time. That's what it is.
He had too good of a time, yeah.
Okay, no, nice. I can answer.
As far as what I'm doing, as I said, I've kind of been lax on my videos, and I understand that it's just I've had problems, and I'm trying to get over those problems. I want to get out and go to more museums and places that showcase guns and whatnot, and even gun shops, and get more pictures and whatnot. Kind of like G-Webs was doing, with the gun show Loophole tour, where he'd stop off at shops and whatnot. But there are a couple places in my area, and some places have closed down. Some are still going, and I'd like to document those while I can.
You literally live in the Palmetto State. I would think it'd be awesome if you could get an interview with someone at PSA.
I'm gonna talk to them, but remember, my channel is a little bit risk. I'm considering starting another channel where I do not curse or have anything to do with foul language, and just do the gun stuff entirely. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I'm considering it.
I think that's valuable. That's maybe a discussion we can have here in a second. Clover usually jumps in on that one too. But let me go back to your idea of doing the gun show loophole thing. First, my attorneys will be in contact, so thank you, because I need all the financial.
Well, I was going to ask for permission first before going off and doing it.
No, you already said it publicly without any kind of written formal.
Right. So and I'm witnessing it. Yep.
That's a right there. So maybe
I won't do it.
Patreon. Oh no, you've already.
No, I'm not doing it now.
Anyway,
nope.
no, I'm just kidding. So the idea though of going to shops, I think has merit. And I started the tour because I dig shops or whatever. But ideally, if I would have had, whatever, all the dreams or whatever, to be able to do whatever I wanted, I would have followed up each shop with more than just the pictures. I would have tried to do some sort of interview on the Daily Gun Show with the owner, and then ideally some sort of a little plug, like I don't want to say produced, but working with somebody like a Ghost or somebody who can do a produced video, produce something, something they could almost use as a commercial, just as a thank you and as a way to create content on your site that's interesting, right? Or on your projects that are interesting, and that way it's mutually beneficial. The thing is, I was never able to do that for many reasons. I collect 50 gun shops. That's 50 situations that I got to do all that with. Even if they don't all take me up on it, if that's 30, that's a month's worth of effort right there. I just never had the time to be able to do that. But when you're talking locally and you're talking gun shops that here in Arizona, for example, I'm in Tucson. I can drive south to the international border with Mexico and north to about halfway to Phoenix and get probably like 20 something gun shops. So I can drive all the Tucson gun shops in one day. Back when I used to kind of more pay attention and monitor the shops and try to promote them as much as possible back in the YouTube days. And before even, I would go out once in a while, maybe once every couple of months and browse all the shops, for my own interest if I was going to buy something, I guess, but also to take pictures and to keep track, keep up my communication with each of the owners and stuff and the people that work there. And I never did it with like any kind of financial thing. I had one or two shops that wanted me to additionally run their websites for them, which was fine, I guess. But if you're not doing that, I didn't have any kind of relationship with them financially. But what you could do is run your channel in a way where you reach out to these different shops and you promote them. And then the shops that are interested and able, you have some kind of a relationship with them, because you've got the ability to be basically a small marketing company for these gun shops that either can't afford or don't have any inclination to go out and promote themselves online. And, you know, with the multimedia abilities we all have with YouTube and gun channels and Gun Streamer and GunTube.org, and, you know, the different social media platforms, plus our own websites, we can give a gun shop quite a bit of reach. And I do it as an effort to get people motivated to do that. So I'm glad you brought that up. I was kidding about the proprietary shit. I don't give a crap. I'm hoping that I drop that seed in everybody. If everybody went out and recorded a video of their favorite gun shop, that'd be a whole different YouTube.
And here's the thing. As we said, I'm in the Palmetto State. I'm also in the area of which, well, I'm a little outside, but I'm in the area of which Sea Arsenal is in. And I was thinking about going down and seeing if I could do like an interview with Othias and get, pick his brain and put that on the separate channel. And then as well as talk to Mark Novak, who does all the gunsmithing for him as well.
There you go. Yeah. And then, well, I interrupted you there when you were talking about something, and I wanted to jump in and say that about the tour in the gun shops is valid and potentially lucrative. Gun shops, I don't know, the ones down here would pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars, without putting any extra detail out there, many hundreds of dollars just for a bench, like what do they call those things, like a bus stop bench, like the back of the bus stop, so I guess that's useful and that's a valid form of advertising, but in perspective, hundreds of dollars for that. They would have to spend $30,000 to get a page in a magazine publication or whatever. Yeah, I'll tell you off air. And then, whatever you might need to keep a project going, even if you were doing it full time, is very insignificant compared to that. And depending on how much effort you put into it, tracking what you do, you can bring them back lots of information, not just this many people watched my video, but then I went into my Google Analytics and the people are from this state, and if they are, you can give them some insight, like, the product that you're selling, most of my views come from Wisconsin, and that allows them to tweak their advertising a little bit and enhance some sales. You're valid. You're valuable to them. Anyway, right. I cut you off in the middle of all that. What was the second thing Ghost was asking you or trying to address?
Yeah, Ghost.
I was just asking him, does he have any plans on new directions of using our media to, enhance the Second Amendment than just live streams and some videos?
You ever thought of hosting live video streams?
I've thought of it. I'm not sure how well it'd go, but, hey, it's something I could try. But again, I'm going to focus, as I said, I think I am going to focus on doing a separate channel and cutting some of the fat out and just... oh,
yeah, that's where we were going.
Yeah, making more, let's say, family-oriented videos.
So,
and less of the live streams on the second channel.
Yeah, when you say family-oriented, you just mean language. You're not going to start making like videos for the youth. So I think there's validity to that. For the longest time, I have my growth on YouTube was never swearing or anything. When we started in the last, 5-6 years to get into the live stuff, I swear all the time. So that came out more. But in the videos, I was always aware because we got kids in the gun websites, people have kids. Our oldest kids are 16. Youngest ones now are, I guess, still babies, but we got kids all around that are, I don't know when they're watching our stuff, if they want to go online and watch what their dad's doing or something, or their mom. So we never swore at all. We knew that our audience could be potentially anybody, and just to be respectful for adults who don't want to hear that stuff. We just never did. Like, say, when it gets to be a regular conversation, you're dealing with Yankee, you're going to start swearing. But, non-live stuff, I always made that a point. I think lately, I don't think I still don't swear in the videos. I don't think. Like if I'm making a movie review, I don't just swear unnecessarily.
But in a conversation online, you know, when we're in one of Matt's shows, you do go overboard sometimes.
I don't go overboard. I know sailors, dude. I know Marines. They swear delicately compared to some people I know. But
and then there's Yankee Unfiltered.
But anyway, like I say, I think there's definitely some validity. What do you think, Ghost?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anyone that knows me personally, I cuss a lot in normal everyday life. But when it comes to portraying my media, I don't mind cussing here and there, but I just don't think that it's something. If we're trying to get an absolute message out about something, making the conversation revolve around cussing is just harmful to whatever your message, because at some point people, all they hear are the cuss words and they miss the other great words that you're trying to say.
They miss the message.
Exactly. So I think that, you know, if you're trying to actually spread a message and have a serious conversation or doing a serious video, then sure, you have to be very aware of what you're saying. But if you're just hanging around talking to some friends on a live chat or a lobby chat or whatever, it is what it is. But if you're trying to portray an actual message, then I think that you have to obviously be aware of what you're saying.
Right. So,
and by separating them on its own channel, I mean, like you say, you're talking about having another channel. You didn't word it like I'm gonna start a different project and only do it. So if you're talking about separating your, like, let's call it evergreen, right? Content stuff that's made for everybody, designed to be useful, throughout time as an archive. When you're going to do that kind of stuff deliberately, just being accurate and polite, and then the people that are interested enough in you, the person who's offering the info and not just the info, are going to know that you're doing another channel. You can either link to it or describe it, somehow. But once they know that you are doing this over here casually, then you've given them that heads up, like, hey, I'm going to go over here and, I'm speaking natural here. I'm at ease. So I think that's definitely worth it. Because like Ghost saying, you're building stuff potentially with a message that's important. And I don't think the swearing adds. It can only distract or inhibit, right? I don't really see any place where it can add, except maybe like damn it or something like as emphasis. But so many people swear using, like, what is it, religious or biblical type of swears, just because it's just like culture now or whatever. I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but that kind of stuff can really piss somebody off if they're, if they're strict with their whatever. And that's
I've tried to refrain from that on Hit or Miss, and we've always been kind of glib, and we've been outspoken on Hit or Miss, even the panelists, and it Hit or Miss doesn't work without that kind of interaction. So I figure I just start a separate channel and just try and do produce videos. Granted, not videos that are like super professional, but just produced more so than I usually do, and run with that.
I think it's valuable, and then you'll find out. I don't know if there's a difference between like knowing how to do something like produce a video and doing it on a regular basis. I don't know if you guys followed Hosh back in the day when, was it 2 years ago now? He did like a daily vlog. He resolved to do like a daily video update, so a blog except in a video form. I think he did it on YouTube. He might have put it other places. I followed it on YouTube and stuff. But anyway, in the process of challenging himself to do that and holding himself to it, he became really, really good at throwing up video and making it quick and well done. And he got to explore all kinds of techniques. Imagine doing 365 videos and not just doing them all in a row where you don't really get a chance to evolve, but doing them deliberately throughout a year. You're going to get influences and just things are going to influence your creativity and your abilities and your tools. Everything's going to be different throughout that year, and that's going to give you some reach and some experience that not only will you be able to tell if you like doing videos, but you might decide, yeah, this is something I do not like, and then not have it on your mind. I'm no longer wondering what would happen if I did videos. I just hate doing it, so I'm going to move on to blogs or something. So I think that's a worthy thing. I don't know.
I didn't mean to derail you with that, but it's just something that I've seriously considered doing, and I figure, you know what, it's a new year, better to just resolve myself to go and try something different.
No, I hear you. I think that's what I was just trying to say, that's where I think we figured all that out at a couple of SHOT Shows where we decided we were going to do video, and that was just like dig in and do hundreds of them really fast. And then it was like, wow, this isn't hard. Like, it's like riding a bike or whatever, it's no big deal. And then we were able to put out thousands of videos, on the various channels because, I don't know, whatever hurdle or concern there was, got rid of in the effort. I'm not seeing any comments out there. So since we're more than an hour now, or I guess we're about an hour away then from whatever gun streamer is going to go live with. Over on Hank Strange's show, not ours. So do we want to go for another hour, or do we want to just end it? Because it's pretty much, I think right now, 2 hours for the second. So we could end it now and act like it's all about the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I've got to get some stuff done for show prep for tonight for me.
Yeah, we probably should end it.
All right. Well, if nobody wants to join in, then these two have other things to do. Thanks for jumping in for 2 hours and having the room open, or being with me in the room while it's open. We'll continue to invite everyone. This time I tried individual emails. I figured out it took 2 freaking hours to send out all the emails, and that's just maybe I did it stupid or whatever. But I opened up an email and I addressed it, and then I put the the same subject and the same email to everybody. And so it wasn't like I was customizing each one other than the email address. I just deliberately sent out 42. I mean, I had things I had to answer phone or, let the dog out or whatever in between, but yeah, it took forever. So I want to say thanks to the people that efforted with Yankees Project. It's amazing the amount of money that was collected with a bunch of $5 and $10 and every once in a while more donations to the cause. It's amazing. And instead of deciding, should I send out 42 individual emails on Saturday, or I guess maybe not this Saturday, but next time I do this, or should I just continue to send them out as a bulk because that's one process, it takes a minute, or should it take an hour or whatever the hell it took, 2 hours? Thanks for everybody for giving me the time. Now I can continue to deliberately send each person an email, and we'll do that for another couple of weeks or whatever, and we'll see what kind of response we get. Unfortunately, it didn't happen to the scale I would like to see before SHOT Show, but now I can go to SHOT Show and bug people, and I will bug people why they've had 8 or 9 emails from me that since the time they told me it was a great idea to get together each month. At what point do you need, when is the perfect time to get you on board? They can tell me, and we can tweak these to make them the perfect time for everybody. And people that need to be, I don't know, explained any concerns they might have or whatever, we'll be able to have a chance to talk to them one-on-one. And I like one-on-one because when I talk to somebody in an email and they're like, yeah, and then you talk to them in real life and their feet are looking at, their eyes are looking at the ground, they can't even look in the eye to talk about the Second Amendment. Those are the people that you never see on this show, honestly. It's the people I've written off because they're talking it, but they ain't in it. So being at SHOT Show gives us a chance to shake hands and look them in the eye and find out if they're legit or not. And, we kid around about people being robots, but there's a heck of a lot of shells walking around. And my place ain't to expose them or nothing. They expose themselves, but instead to enhance valid efforts like Ghost right here, kicking some butt, doing stuff with boots on the ground in the middle of Arkansas where it might not seem like it matters, but every time we light a candle, we get rid of some of that two-way ignorance, that two-way unawareness, or that two-way hatred.